Hello and welcome to Counterpressed on The Ringer and Spotify. I'm in the studio with Becky Taylor-Gill and Kate Longhurst. On today's show, we pay tribute to the amazing Matt Beard. It's important for us to say to all our listeners that if you have been affected by any of the news this week, please seek help and support through the Samaritans if you're in the UK, or speak to your doctor or relevant services. We're all still dealing with the news from last Saturday. We've taken some time away from the pod this week, but we really wanted to make sure that we could come in today and pay tribute to someone who meant a lot to us, a coach, a mentor, and a friend. Matt Beard tragically passed away on Saturday at just 47. We send our love to all his friends and family and everyone that has been impacted by the news. It's very hard to process, it still feels very surreal, but we wanted to take some time on today's show to celebrate Matt, talk about the joy he spread across women's football, and talk about the legacy that will live on in the WSL. Becky, Kate, thank you both for coming in. I know this is going to be very hard for everyone. We have been chatting this week about how we wanted to approach this. It felt on Monday, it was quite raw still, and we felt that as something that really impacted us, who knew Matt on various different levels and for many years, we weren't ready on Monday to talk about what happened, but we also think it's really important that we can pay tribute to someone who meant a lot to us. So thanks so much for coming in today, and I know it's going to be very hard for all of us, so everyone can take the time that they need. But I also want this to be an opportunity for us to really celebrate Matt, to talk about some amazing memories, whatever memories people would like to talk about. Kate, I know it's going to be especially hard for you because we all knew Matt slightly differently. Like, I came across him when he was a coach, but through working in the media, he's someone that you worked with, you knew for a very long time. I just want you to talk about how important he was in your career.
He gave me my first chance in the WSL, Sorry. Without him, I think I owe a lot of my career to him. God, I really thought I wasn't going to cry, and I thought I'd hold it together.
I know, now I am as well.
It's the first sentence. Yeah, it's very difficult because, you meet a lot of coaches. I've been lucky to have some really, really good coaches, but I think he's been throughout the mainstay of my career. But more importantly than a coach, just like as a friend. I only spoke to him 2 weeks ago when he left Burnley, and it's weird because the last thing he said to me, he actually had to take another call, and the last thing he said to me was, "All right, darling, I've got to go, I'll ring you back." And I never spoke to him again since then. Yeah, he's just a great guy. I've seen so many tributes this week and people that haven't even been coached by him or didn't even know him personally, and they're still affected by it. So I don't really know what else there is to say about him in terms of what hasn't already been covered by so many people. It's been the weirdest week because I feel fine and then it just hits you. And I think 'cause I've seen so many things, like, you scroll through and you see so many things and all the things that clubs are doing, the minute silence, everything. Even the Liverpool men's game the other day, I thought I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't expect it because, it comes with women's games and, but he was a big character around Liverpool. I know when I was at Liverpool, he was widely respected and from the men's side and the women's side. And, it just shows how many people he can connect together. And, I watched a bit of the Liverpool game yesterday, the women's game, and, seeing the players before the game, I know what they're feeling, and I think it's nice that they have each other and they have some support. But yeah, he's just so important for everything I did. I owe him pretty much my whole career, so he'll be missed.
The tributes that have been across the league and social media are like such an amazing celebration of who he was and the impact he had on everyone, especially the players he worked with, as you're one of those players, Kate. So I think that's been amazing to see how he touched so many people's lives, and I think he was such a father figure and mentor to so many. Becky, I know, is a Liverpool fan. Obviously, he was on the front of the programme yesterday. I believe Liverpool sold out of that programme. I know Tom Gary was doing some reporting from the game last night. There was also a book of condolences before the game, and there was such a long queue for people who wanted to send a message. Matt's mum and brother were also in attendance, and Liverpool are again at home this weekend, so there'll be another opportunity for everyone to pay tribute. But he was such a successful coach at Liverpool and also made such an impact for that women's team off the pitch. So as a Liverpool fan, how important is his legacy there as well?
I don't think that you have Liverpool women without Matt Beard, and coming back at a time when the club, had been relegated and was finding it difficult, and bringing them back up is just so important. And I think I had a couple of friends who were at the game yesterday, and I said to them, can you get me a program? And we got some text before, like, I just don't think we can. Like, there is nowhere that has them left, and they had been in the queue to sign the condolences book along with just like everybody else who was there. And I think it just shows how widely loved he was by everybody. And I think in football that is such a difficult thing to do, to be loved by your fans, your players, the media. It's so rare, and he had that because of the person that he was. I think I was looking at Getty for some pictures yesterday of the minute silence, and so I just searched his name in Getty and I went newest, and the final photo of him from Getty from the end of last season was just like such a perfect picture of him, on the bench, like laughing, smiling, like being with his players. And I think that really summed up how he held himself and how he carried himself. And like that is the reason that people loved him.
Kate, we've spoken to you, especially when you announced your retirement, about that 13-14 Liverpool group. And we've spoken before about how it was a legendary squad with a legendary manager. You played with Farrah Williams, with Katie Zellum, Lucy Bronze, Gemma Bonner. I'm not saying you're not iconic name as well,
No.
Kate, but I'm saying it's a who's who of WSL legends. And for newer fans, they may be less aware of how generational that squad was and winning back-to-back titles. Chelsea have won loads of consecutive titles now, but at that point it wasn't as common. I want you to tell us about how special that group was, working with Matt and also working with those players, and what made those 2 years just so unique.
For a lot of us, it was the first time that we'd played professional football, so we were in every day. I'd not had that previously because when I was at Chelsea, we were training twice a week. Whereas when we went to Liverpool, it was training every day. So I think naturally you get to know the players more, you get to almost have a tighter bond. But I think one thing that he was so big on, and every manager can say it, but they don't always deliver it. But one thing that he was so big on was the environment and the culture that we created, and getting in the right people he knew he could trust. You also have to have good players, but I think people that wanted to improve but were good for the team. There was no egos. Some people starting out their career, I mean, you look at how many trophies now Lucy Bronze has gone on to win. For her, she's probably not even thinking about the trophies at Liverpool, but for some of us that was all we managed to win. So it was about bringing the right people in, but just his character, like I knew him from Chelsea, from having him at Chelsea, but it was just completely different once we went to Liverpool. I think, like I said, being there every single day, training was always fun. It was always, it was hard work, but it was always fun. And the way he created the team, it was just enjoyable to be there every single day. And the people that we had there, I think when people look back, some people are still playing now, some people have retired. But I think when people look back, they'll realise, it was a special group and a special time, and especially the way we won the second trophy. I think on the day of winning it, we were third. And
that was that bonkers end of season where it could have been like you, Birmingham or Arsenal, I think, or Bristol. It was like a three-way, can't remember.
Us, Birmingham or Chelsea.
Chelsea, right, yeah. Oh, yeah,
and Gilly.
Course, yeah.
Gilly was on the Chelsea team, so unlucky. But we didn't. I remember waking up that morning and it was top 2 for Champions League. So I was thinking, we're not even going to get Champions League. So I wasn't stressed or anything. And I was actually on the bench that day, and you could hear people like saying, the score's this score, the score's that. And we're going, we could actually win it. Like, let alone Champions League, we could actually win it. So it was crazy because that almost meant more, because it was harder to then do again, because we were the ones that people were chasing, and we maybe hadn't hit the heights that we did the previous season. But just waiting for that result, and everyone just jumping on, like everyone was just jumping on each other. I think Beardy got champagne thrown all over him, and and it was, I think there was like a moment, because at the time it was on telly, and I think they had all 3 games sort of at the same time. So it's probably like one of the best last days of the season you could imagine. But yeah, I remember like there was a shot of him like just getting absolutely drenched and him just smiling. But yeah, it was a great team to be part of.
I got a text from my brother who his only interaction and knowing Matt Beard was watching the West Ham documentary, which I know is still slightly traumatic for you, Kate, that doc. And one day we will do our much promised counterpress rewatch of that. But like, I think that was an amazing era for Beardy, but also obviously for you as players, because West Ham had just become professionalised. I think when we spoke to Beardy last year, he described it as them being a franchise under Sullivan Jr. and all the antics that came with it. What was it like having those cameras in the setup, and what was Beardy's reaction to having those cameras around?
I think everyone dealt with it quite well, and there was, when you look back at things, of course things are going to get edited how they want it to look dramatic, or trying to get the bits that make telly, because otherwise if you just get the boring stuff, then no one's going to watch it.
Real WSL enjoyers.
Yeah.
I'd be
real
there.
true heads.
But I think it certainly showed a lot of sides to him that were real. He did care a lot about players, but if you did something wrong as well, he wouldn't be frightened of telling you, and especially on the touchline. I mean, everyone knows Beardy as a shouter, and to be honest, I think I got so used to it I never even heard him. So he'd be shouting my name and I couldn't even hear him.
Tune it out.
And it wasn't until I was on the opposition of him playing, he went to Bristol, and I was playing for West Ham, and it was like the snowiest day. It was an awful game, and he just would not shut up. And I literally went over to him and I went, "Will you shut up?" He was doing my head in. And I thought, is this what people hear? Because when he was my manager, I was just so used to it. So it was
How did he
weird
react to that?
He just laughed. But it was just like, I just went, "Will you shut up?" Like, but yeah, it's just you don't realise until, because you're in it. But going back to the documentary, it's difficult because I think, especially for me, as soon as the camera's in front of me, I freeze. I could be doing something really stupid or singing, dancing, whatever, and someone puts a camera on me and I'm like, I'm not doing it for cameras, I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And sometimes we'd have a conversation and then the cameras would come over, you're mid-conversation, and we're chatting about anything, I don't know. And they'd go, "Oh, can you just speak about that again?" And we're like,
The moment's
no,
gone now.
we're just chatting.
Yeah.
Like, you can't recreate a conversation.
Yeah.
So things like that were difficult. Or if you did see the cameras coming in, you'd be like, stop, because they're filming, because you don't want certain things on camera. But then, like, it was nice to kind of see the football side of things, because obviously when you're playing on the pitch or, a game's going on, you're not thinking, oh, there's cameras there, or at half time, you're just being yourself at half time. And if you've got something to say, you just say it. And like, it's good because you see a certain part of it, but obviously there was a lot that it was made out to be more dramatic. Like, sometimes I'd look at it and go, God, we didn't like each other, but we really, really loved each other as a team. And yeah, there's some like difficult moments on there, but I think it showed him in his best light, and possibly things that he maybe didn't want people to see, but that's real and it's raw. And yeah, you get to see kind of his character, his personality, I think, which is the biggest thing that's come out of this, is just everyone saying, what a great person he is. So you get to see a small glimpse of that, but it's not the full picture.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the funniest people you could, in football, follow a camera around when it comes to swearing, shouting, but also being such a personality. He's kind of perfect for it, but also probably the worst person for it because he's going to show all of that. I want to come back to West Ham in a minute, but I think you brought up the Bristol City stint for Matt, and that was funny because during that time, I think I started coining the phrase maternity Matt Beard, and then he would use it back to me in texts, and he almost started to love that he was being called maternity Matt Beard, and he nearly kept them up against all odds. He wasn't far off.
He's such a safe pair of hands.
He had to come in for Tanya Oxtoby, who had to leave on maternity leave, and he had a few months. He had that League Cup final at Vicarage Road, which was weird because it was a COVID final. So I was there. Jesse was in the press box as well that day, but it was only press, no fans. And Sam Kerr did a backflip that day. It was a tough day for Bristol City, but obviously for Matt it was a huge achievement coming in with this almost free hit, as it were, to try and keep Bristol City up. And also you're in a League Cup final. Obviously didn't work out for Bristol City, but the sheer fact that he got them so close, it just shows how incredible he was as a manager, and I think that's what one of his biggest assets are. And maybe he doesn't get enough credit, actually. We did a interview episode with him where we talked a lot about his coaching philosophy, and he probably doesn't get enough credit for the coaching side. But why he had such a big impact on players is because he was a phenomenal manager, and people would just run through brick walls for him. And there aren't a lot of coaches like that out there that have that skill,
especially in women's football. I think we talk a lot about managers mismanaging those relationships with people, and I think it's really hard. Like, there is just natural conflict that comes in football, and like I said earlier, like I've never known someone to be so loved, and that's because he was really good at that part. And I think that's what is like so important. I always, I look at like men's football and men's managers, and I'm just like, why aren't you just being nice to your players? Like, that seems really simple. And obviously it's not as simple because you're managing so many relationships. And I honestly, I don't know how he did it. But there's so many players, like, he's worked at so many clubs and he's been around for so long. There is like not that many players in English football who he hasn't like touched their career in some way. And for everybody to come away and be like, he's such a good manager, he's such a good person, shows how good he was at that people management.
Yeah, it's an incredible skill, and there are very few people like that. And I think what's so incredible about Matt is the care and love that he gave to everyone as well. There was a very difficult time for me a few years ago when I was experiencing a lot on social media. And Matt reached out to me to check that I was okay and was regularly calling me. And it meant a lot because I was really struggling, and I probably didn't acknowledge to myself that I was struggling. But he wanted to keep an eye on me, and I always appreciate that for him. And I think I've been thinking about that a lot because I think it's a good lesson for us all, to be honest, on how we look after each other. And I know we talk about it a lot, sometimes in a fickle way, in life, but especially in football. But I think I've been thinking about that a lot because I think what this past week has taught me is you don't know the impact you'll have on people's lives in those small moments. So I think that's something I really want to take away as well, is just really caring for people as much as you can. But Kate, I saw a quote on BBC from Julia Simic, who you would have known from West Ham, and she was on the BBC Women's Football Weekly podcast, and it was amazing because she talked about how when Matt came in at West Ham, he said, we're going to get to Wembley, we're going to get to an FA Cup final. Did you laugh at that concept or were you all in?
I mean, he also said we were going to win the league. And he told
set your targets high.
I think that was the year after though, but he told Gilly she had to visualise lifting the trophy on the last day of the season, and I swear to you not, he said, put your hand up if you don't think we can do it, and I was the only person that
Kate!
put my hand up.
Kate!
Because and then he was like, why can't we do it? And he'd been speaking.
I can't believe you put your hand up.
I know, but I thought I have to be
other
true to
people
myself.
are going to do it, and then you thought, oh no.
Well, I just thought, I've been around long enough, we have to be realistic. I'm a very realistic person. And I remember I'm the only one. I'm really highlighting myself here. And he was like, why can't we do it? And I had to say why I thought we couldn't do it. And I just said, look, last season I think we finished 8th. And I said, I know we've brought in some really good players, but it's such a big jump. And I said, I know we can do like really good things. We got to an FA Cup final last year. I said, we can do really good things, but I said, I am also realistic. Like, it's gonna be really difficult. And he was like, no, if you believe it, like, we can achieve it. But that was the thing. I was the only person that put my hand up, and that was probably from previous experience. But everyone else bought into it. So it just shows how much power he had as well. Of like, we're gonna do this, and everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna do it.
We're gonna win the league.
So mine was just me being pessimistic. Of like, well, I've seen this happen before.
You were old and weary, and you were like,
exactly.
Nah.
But I think that just shows like the power that he had as well. Of like, we're going to do this. But going back to what Sitchy said, Julia. I've never called her Julia in my life. Sitchy. I have to call her Sitchy. What a character she is as well.
I really want to get her on the pod. Actually,
she's
one
class.
Day.
She's actually
always
class.
seemed
work
like
with her on That's the Tea.
Yes, she always seemed like such a fun personality.
Yeah, she's funny. But I also saw something she said about like getting into coaching as well because of like people like Matt and why she wanted to get into coaching. And yeah, he was just very positive. And like I said before, the way he built teams. I mean, at West Ham, it was crazy. Like, I actually came halfway through pre-seasons, and some of them are not halfway through. Maybe they'd been there like 3 weeks or something. And I knew Gilly, I knew Raf, I knew Becky Spencer, but I didn't really know anyone else. And there was a lot of foreign players that had come in, and it was crazy how quickly everyone had gelled. And it's like when you've got a whole new team, because you have to bear in mind, Rosie Cometa was the only one, and Vianne Sampson, they were the only ones that had been kept on from when West Ham weren't professional. So you're basically saying, right, we're bringing in 20 new players. So for you to be able to bring in all those players and everyone just hit it off straight away, like, that's really rare. I've been at teams where you bring in 10 new players and it's quite difficult, like making everyone feel welcome. And, you know, that's where you have to take it upon yourself as players as well to try and get people to settle in straight away. But I think how Beardy was, the people that he picked for his coaching staff suited how he wanted to be and his philosophy and his morals. And that reflected on all of the players that he brought in. And when you think of, we probably had like 8 different nationalities. We had like people just starting out their journey at 18 years old. We had people that were a bit more experienced in their late 20s. And you've got to mix all of that together. And, you know, you can have a look at the cup run and say, yeah, we got favourable ties in a lot of the rounds. But you still have to create something to create a team that can go on and do that. And in the FA Cup final, there was no shame in losing to Man City. All these players, international players, a team that had sort of built its way together to create a really strong squad. And in the first half, you could argue we had the better chances and we were the better team. And then second half, we just let it go. But he always instilled that belief that, you know, anything was possible. And that's what happened. You know, every club he went to, he either won something or got them to a cup final, or because he got us to a FA Cup final at Chelsea. You know, when I was younger, I never thought, oh, I'm going to play in an FA Cup final. So that was crazy as well. So, yeah, wherever he went, he created that bond. You can just look from the teams that he's created. At Liverpool, when I was gone, I could always see the team spirit that they had. And obviously I knew a few of the players still there, but you could just see that's what he created. And I think that's probably why everyone's found it so hard, is that, you know, he made you feel like you were the most special player. But he's done that to like 200 people.
It's that the belief, like being like, we can win the league. It's not just going into those teams and being like, I believe that we can perform well. I think he also just believed in women's football, like on the whole, like the period that he has been a WSL manager has changed so much, and he has seen so many teams and so many players through that huge change. And he quit his job to be a football manager. He believed that in women's football, and he believed that that was a place for him. And I think like something I've been thinking about a lot this week is just like a lot of players, but you and Jilly specifically, like you went everywhere with him. Like you followed him from club to club, and he brought you with him, and that's so special.
Yes. Even when I retired, he rang me. I think it was the next day, and he said, "Do you want to come out of retirement?" I've got another team lined up, and I'm thinking, "Oh, Beardy, I can't go back now. I've released something."
To be fair,
saying
he did go and sign a lot of
Well,
players.
he signed the whole of Liverpool,
Yeah.
didn't he, in the end? But he was like, "Look, I've got this option, I've got this option, I've got this." He had 3 options, and I was thinking, well, I don't really want to move to America. I don't really want to move to Burnley. But I said no, and then he even said, what about being part of my coaching team? So that would have been full circle. But yeah, I mean the length of time he lasted there, maybe it was for the best. I didn't go, but
You'd just still be in Burnley now.
I'd still be in Burnley
imagine?
thinking, well, what's happening?
Kate,
But,
interim manager.
I'd be maternity.
That-
Well, maternity Kate doesn't.
I would have
work
loved
well,
to have
but,
seen Kate's interim Burnley stint
Yeah.
having to take over.
His final joke to you.
Unlucky,
You're a
I've
manager
got
now.
you, yeah.
I was also, just to your point as well, Becky, I remember got around a message from someone who listens to Cout Press, who said that they had spotted Matt in a Homes Under the Hammer episode. Like
Oh my
months
God,
ago.
I forgot about
It's like
that.
6 months ago. And obviously, famously, Matt left being an estate agent to go into coaching full time.
Have we found it yet?
Never found it.
Why
and
have I
I
never
asked,
known about this?
I thought I asked you about it.
No.
It's definitely when you were at Forest last season. And I texted Matt and said, "Do you have any memory of this?" And he said, "Have you got a picture?" And I was like, "I haven't got a picture." But I went back to the person and said, "We need more evidence," but they couldn't find the exact sort of moment. So we will try and find the Matt Beard Homes
Right,
Under the
so
Hammer.
I'm gonna have to
episode.
I'm gonna have to binge watch Homes Under the Hammer
But it's not
from
all
like
available.
It's gonna be a lot of
You need to-
episodes.
Someone's going to need to go to the BBC
pre
archives.
2013.
Someone's going to have to go
No,
to
pre further than that.
Yeah.
When did he go to Chelsea?
2012 he was there?
Yeah.
No,
Before I got
before
there.
that. Oh, yeah.
I think
2011?
I actually think Casey had said it recently.
Oh,
about
on-
maybe 2009 or
Right,
something.
oh, so yeah.
Okay, so
So get down to
let's
the
all,
BBC
archives.
I'll make a
archives.
spreadsheet and we can all, including listeners, can all pick an episode and we'll put in the spreadsheet whether we've watched it and whether Matt Beard was in it.
I mean, if we give ourselves that's like a 4-year window, then that's not bad.
That's something we could do.
skip
We
every
Get that.
skip all the Dion Dublin
Watch it in
years.
no. No. Watch it in 2-speed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's been really important for us to come in today and talk about Matt, and I think it's going to continue to be difficult to process it. His legacy is going to sit with the WSL and so many players that he worked with, and he touched so many lives for so long. And I think we will re-release our interview episode with Matt that we did last year. There's so much in that talks about his coaching philosophy, why he's been so successful, especially as we spoke to him just after, I think, Liverpool had finished 4th. So it was off the back of a really, strong season there. And I did have a listen back to it yesterday, and there's so much in there that just I think is amazing to hear. So we will re-release that. It is currently in the feed if you want to take a look. But Kate, Becky, thanks for coming in today. Listener will, of course, be back on Monday chatting about all the WSL stuff this weekend. And again, if you've been impacted by any of this, please do check the relevant resources as well, wherever you live in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon.